So I wanted to get this video out a few weeks ago, but between the holidays and life being exceptionally mean lately, this video ended up getting pushed back quite a bit. Anyways, recently Bethesda decided to restart the Creation Club after being dormant for a few years, and one of the first paid mods they released was the Arquebus mod, that adds a dungeon and a weapon class being Arquebus. So today we find out if you can beat Skyrim with a gun. Well, getting into the technicalities, the Arquebus is classified as a hand cannon according to the mod description page, but also hand cannons are considered early firearms, plus the real-life Arquebus is a long gun, so I'm just gonna roll with it. Now going on into the rules for the run, mostly the only weapon I can use is the Arquebus family weapons, including the unique variants. As with most other challenge runs, I'm not allowing myself to use the companions for combat. I thought at first I might have to use one for a section, but we'll get to that later. I also wanted to allow myself the use of the duplication glitch, but that never ends up working, again more later. And the other usual rules such as no major glitches. As for bonus objectives, I'm going to have to complete the CC dungeon. I'm not even going to pronounce the place. You can just grab the weapon halfway through and call it, but that wouldn't be sustainable in the long run. Again, more later. Well, so many more laters, let's get this ball rolling. Well, when loading my save so I can skip the introduction, I was greeted with a lovely message.
Oh no! Anyway,
starting up with the creation process, I went with the Bosmer this time since I've never really played as them before, plus they start with a high archery stat. I was just speeding along the creation process because I was recording this on Christmas Eve and I had one too many eggnogs on the brain to put much effort into the process. I even gave myself a dumb name, though looking back I probably should have gone with the dark elf and named him Gunmer, but oh well. Pelican is more or less the same as ever for the introduction, run like a madman into the keep and then side with roll-off. I let him slice apart the Imperial Captain so I can take her armor and sprint through the place. That is literally the only reason I side with roll-off in the intro, and you can even go into the other intro part and take an extra set of keys. The more you know. Well, the rest of the intro goes as normal, and before too long I'm outside getting some fresh air. Speaking of as usuals, once I'm outside I book it right to the Thief's Standing Stone so I can level archery up faster. In Riverwood I help out a fellow Bosmer mostly for the free archery training, and also for the dupe exploit that never ends up working, but archery training is archery training. The big thing about the intro is going to be preparing for the trip into a dwarven ruin. The devs recommend tackling the place at level 10, not at level 1, so we're going to need to do a little bit of leveling. Out and about I make sure to hit up the usual vendor chest for a quick power level in gold. Trust me, I'm going to need a lot of gold for the run. I also take time to pick up some cabbages for the run for vegetable soup, something I end up never using. Well, one looting and one enchanting session out of the way, I stock up on potions, borrow a conveniently placed horse, and head outwards towards the dungeon. On my way to the Dwemer ruins, I decided to take the river. Why did I take the river? I was very drunk on eggnog, okay? The Dwemer ruin in question is located east of the watchtower with the toll, so it's pretty easy to get to early game. While I was there, I found a potion nailed down to the table, plus a lot of pickaxes. Heading inside, I make a beeline right to the gun. I already played the dungeon before when testing it out if I needed a companion or not. Hug the left wall for the intro, lower a few gates, avoid some lovely falmer, and walk face first into a trap. Then eventually get to an elevator. I know that somewhere in here is a special hammer, but considering I had no way to defend myself, I ran right for the elevator. So the elevator. Normally this is supposed to be a grand elevator fight and I thought you had to fight some enemies to progress, but it's actually an auto-scroller, so I just danced around the lever for a minute until the elevator collapsed in on itself. Past the point of no return, I pressed further on into the ruins. Well, after some water slides and climbing a spiral tower, I finally arm the firearm and comes with a few bullets. I immediately lay into the nearby spiders and it does a decent job. Now for the main drawback of the Arquebus. After you fire the gun, you are super slow when you reload, but there's a way around that. With power in my hands, I walk outside the door so I can level up a little bit, and I thought I could progress the main story a little bit. Back in Riverwood, restraining myself a little bit from blasting a chicken into a poof of feathers, I entered Ember Shard Mines. I never entered this dungeon in my runs thus far. Inside the dungeon, I just started firing. So about the slow debuff from reloading, if you put the gun away and then take it right back out, it skips the slow debuff. I think it is the same reload speed either way, but I've had enough going slow to last me a lifetime. There's something oddly satisfying about seeing bandits cartwheeling through the air. Continuing my carnage, I decided to hit up Bleak Falls Barrow, blasting at anything that moved. The low-level bandits didn't even stand a chance, and inside the barrow I even managed to get a bandit roasting on a fire. Well, when I get to the Draugr, I run into a small problem. I was not paying attention to the ammo, and when I was doing the glitch using a different ammo, it wouldn't take and I couldn't use the gun anymore. While I could load back to the start of the dungeon and use the ammo glitch, I decided to instead load all the way back to when I first got the gun, and try doing some glitches so I can finish out the dungeon. Well, before going back into the dungeon again, I returned to Riverwood to get Faendal to do the item duplication glitch. Well, it seems I can't have nice things today because another glitch with the game is that the bullets don't have an overworld model, so when I try to do the glitch, all the ammo just vanishes and I can't find them. Well, there goes plan B. Guess my only hope now would be to clear out the rest of Thundsharm Dunes. Told you it was a mouthful and why I don't like saying it. So as to why I was dreading this place, the Dwarven Arquebusiers, who are reskinned Dwarven Ballistas that I hear hit super hard. In fact, I used up all my potions on the first one. And there are 4 in this room alone, so once I had to kill one, I restocked on potions, killed a couple more, and then repeat. As for the ammo problem, you can actually glitch the game into using another ammo type. If you insert an arrow, it converts it into a ball and you can go from there. So often I would fire a bullet, hide, go into my inventory and manually equip an arrow so that way I can make it through the dungeon sparing all the ammo I can. I spent at least 20 minutes in the tower room alone just trying to clear out the enemies. Well, the area had a lot of valves to press. Near the top of the tower part there was a room with the Dwarven Arquebus upgrade, so that is pretty nice. Well, at the top of the tower when redirecting the water there was a very bugged out valve that despite having it be redirected in some videos, it would just not work with me, at least with the Arquebus. Thankfully there was a bow and iron arrows nearby that seemed to do the job. Probably a glitch on the game's part, and this was the only time I ever used the bow in a run. After the steam redirected was a Dwarven Centurion Guardian, a level 30 enemy and I'm level 8 right now, so I came close to dying quite a few times. Thankfully its AI is pretty bugged so it stayed in the doorway as I pelted it from afar until it went down. I just had to go into the menu a lot to save on ammo. Near the end of the second section there was a massive bridge with another Arquebusier, so more bullet-shaped arrows in the noggin. And with the Centurion Core from the previous Centurion, I can enter the library. Inside the library is a nice ammo restock and a breather for the trials to come. While heading on up there is an obvious spinner trap with a long set of stairs. Please remember this for later. Inside the big room were more Dwarven Ballistas. They hit pretty hard but not quite as hard as the Arquebusier cousins, but still do take quite a bit of resources out of me. So when I was done with the group I had to leave and restock on potions. After that I had to solve a more complex puzzle. By Skyrim standards I play Talos Principle so I'm familiar with mine benders. Used a tuning fork to turn the stuff high up in the air, and once the 2 were pressed I was greeted by a horde of mechs. Not wanting to drain any more potions I lead them all down the stairs where I turn on the blender. Suffice to say, it goes pretty well. As for the second tuning problem, I used the primary tuning fork and the sensor until the beams were redirected to 3 levels, pressed buttons until the game told me to stop. And with that all done, it is time for the boss fight. In the boss room on the corpse of the mage were schematics for the Dwarven Arquebus, and more importantly, schematics for bullets. So now I can craft regular bullets so I don't have to use annoying glitches. Yay. Well, I inserted the lexicon and summoned the Overseer. Before then I had a bunch of Arquebusters to contend with. It was a game of potshot after potshot while using the Overseer as cover. Took 3 waves until the big boy decided to come out to play. The Library Overseer has access to a Death Star beam, and I didn't want to deal with that. In fact, I think it could straight up one-shot me at this level, so I had to play it very smart. So I took a few potshots to keep it distracted to follow me to the stairs, and I'll just let the fight play out. With the Overseer cheese in the blender, I could return to the boss room and read all the books. The dark books had a skill increase, so I got another free level and could claim the unique Dwarven Arquebus in the exit room. There was another unique Arquebus in the boss room on a corpse of the Legate, but I never looked at his body, so oops. Since I was in the area of the exit, I ventured to Iverstead for later. Oh yeah, on the way out, I blasted the troll's brains out. If this were Fallout, I probably would have got age restricted here. Well, back in the overworld, I would join the Civil War. That is because there's a bonus quest tied to the Arquebus once you progress through the main questline a little bit, and I think the main option is to go with the Legion, but I think you can also do it with the Stormcloaks. So I conserved what little ammo I had and went through the first fort mission they send you on, since the Jagged Crown is a prerequisite for getting the quest to prompt. Well, I got the letter, but the quest would never start. I probably should have reloaded the save, but I didn't think that far ahead, and it would remain bugged and never start for me for the rest of the playthrough, even after completing a few more quests. I was planning on letting the Legionnaires get the bullets so I could pick them off of them, but that never came to fruition. Well, I guess crafting. I wasn't happy, so I blasted the first person I saw. So about crafting. In order to craft 1 bullet you need 8 charcoal and 1 fire cell to craft 8 black powder, and then you need to use 2 of those black powders and 1 iron ingot to craft 1 bullet. I didn't want to come to this, but I had no other choice. I punched storekeeps, raided Khajiits, and wasn't satisfied until I had 200 bullets to hopefully see me through much of the run. Also, I can only craft the basic bullets, none of the special exploding bullets. Well, with the ammo restocked and finally solved, Just with one hell of a detour, time to finally restart Bleak Falls Barrow. How long are we in the video again? Well, not much to go on for Bleak Falls Barrow. I did it as I did before, using the rest of my explosive bullets on accident instead of using my intended bullets, but oh well. These Draugr are low leveled and can be taken out in one shot, and honestly it feels good to see them ragdolling all over the place. As for the Overlord at the end, I just pumped him full of bullets until the health bar HUD vanished. I hand in the objects, fight Mjolnir, and the fight was actually pretty enjoyable. I love using bows in Skyrim, my preferred playstyle, so I was in my element and the lizard goes down for a nap pretty quickly. Well, I progressed the Civil War quest line far enough to start the battle for Whiterun. I did return to the Dwarven dungeon to see if I missed something for the letter to work, but no, it still didn't work. I guess hereupon Ricky didn't want to play. But I did find the other unique Arquebus and tested it out going up the mountain to the throat of the world. I didn't notice anything different from the normal Arquebus, despite having a faster reload speed supposedly, so I continued using my animation cancel. I climbed to the throat of the world, and suffice to say my gun is pretty effective on the Frost Troll. I also killed a couple of people going up the mountain for some accessories, but that's not here or there. Next up on my misadventure is Ustengrav. I decided to walk there going from Whiterun. Not much happened heading there except I blasted a thief so hard that I think his hat blew off. Well, better than the rest of his body. I also slaughtered an entire family of mudcrabs and kidnapped their baby. One more for my long war crimes list. I took this detour because I wanted to pick up the Lord Stone. I was nearby the level I wanted to be from an archery skill for the build to be rounded out, so a little more defense couldn't hurt. Anyways, I do struggle with group fights as it is, so a little more defense would help. Inside Ustengrav, it is more or less the same as it's ever been. I blasted out the Necromancers and the Necrodancers until I make it to the end. Though along the way I did end up slipping on a small Ustengrav skip, and also become ethereal for Afton for later. With some 8 scattered legs and a missing horn, I departed to Kynesgrove. Well, beforehand, I went around the world a little bit more for resources since I'm at a higher level, so more leveled loot enters the pool. And when I get back to Whiterun, everyone wanted to greet me at once. Well, I let the guards fight the cultists in the streets because it amuses me. Okay, so my still eggnog drunk brain mistook Winterhold for Windhelm. Too many damn W cities in Skyrim. Well, since I was here, I carefully scaled down the side of the cliff and swam to Septimus Outpost. I still have no idea why I decided to slaughter an entire colony of Horkers. I blame the eggnog. Well, I grabbed the keys to the second Dwarven dungeon I'll be raiding this run, then departed to Windhelm, the correct W city. I talked to Ulfric to start the battle for Whiterun, then I take on the second Forest Dragon fight. Yeah, it goes down with little effort. As for the Battle of Whiterun, I had the most bizarre interaction I've ever seen going down to the battle. Keep it jank, Skyrim. As for the battle outside, I let the Ragdoll engine do its work. Well, after the entire battle, I talked to Tullius to hopefully start the other quest, but it still did not work out, and at this point I just gave up on the entire Arquebus quest. Well, since I'm down to just a few bullets, I do another crafting session. When I went to go do my crafting, well, Whiterun decided to go back to Morrowind for the crafting session. Next up is the Thalmor Embassy. All I'm going to say is rip and tear until it's done. Alright, with that Slaughterfest done, next up is the Ratways. Before entering the Ratways, there is Savari, the other Thalmor agent who will ambush you on the way out. I never knew she was here before rescuing Esbern. Emphasis on the was. Well, downside about using creation content is that the guy down here is using bomb arrows, but still guns beat arrows. At this point I noticed just how powerful the gun is because despite the game leveling up, I'm still one-shotting a lot of enemies that are a little bit bulkier. The Thalmor later on go down pretty easily. Well, I rescue Esbern, and put that burn to good use, and then do more story stuff. Wanting to put a little variety on things, after all it is the spice of life, I decided to do Aftan now instead of later. I am more than prepared for this dungeon, but since my brain is now hung over from eggnog, I decided to hit up the nearby dragon den. I didn't even need to go there, but I just did so anyways. The dragon wasn't much to talk about. I lodged a few bullets in its cranium until it stopped twitching. I'm probably going to need much tougher dragons going forward. Well, the real reason is because I want to hit level 60 archery soon because that unlocks a few powerful perks that will really round out my build. Now then for Aftan. Normally in my runs I just sprint through the entire place and call it a day. Today I decided since I have an actual weapon that is actually good and I'm not limited in my healing, I would actually fight things here. Well, considering I've already taken out tougher foes already, Aftan was a joke. One blast was enough to take out most of the small chunk, or at least a good chunk of their health bars. Well, partway through I was interrupted, but meh. As for the second section, I actually decided to do the descent the sort of intended way. I mean, I fight stuff for the first half and then use ethereal the rest of the way, but still I actually do fight things this time. But the big thing I got during the descent was level 60 archery in the ranger perk that lets me move faster when drawing. This means I won't have to worry about having to do the animation cancel anymore, but I don't realize this until later on in the run. While I blasted my way down, even took the time to fight the Centurion down here. I have already defeated 2 stronger ones already, though one broke my blender. Just blast, play smart, and it was of little issue. As for Black Reach, I book it to the tower, but considering the power in my hands, I actually fight the dragon here. Yeah, if you use Unrelenting Force on the ball in the town, you summon a strong dragon that stats are on par with Alduin. Just with daft AI that can be cheesed by becoming one with the Kenobi. At least I get a pretty cool kill on it. Well, after I enter the symbol code of 1, 2, 3, 4, the Elder Scroll is mine. Next stop is Skyhaven Temple. Well, on my way to Skyhaven Temple, I run into an old orc who wants one final duel. Apparently, he never heard of the term, never bring a knife to a gunfight. Well, in my defense, he never mentioned anything about a fair fight. Well, when I got to the temple, I ran into a frost dragon, not the usual blood dragon who will interrupt you here. All that means is a weakness to fire and more health, but it goes down like all the others. Except it was pretty awkward trying to play across a river. The fight was a little annoying, but another dragon soul in my belly. As for Karthspire, the enemies must be level 1 because no way a Briarheart, a boss level enemy, goes down to 1 or 2 shots with my gun. Well, I solved a totally difficult security system, and then after that I departed to the boomers. Well, before fighting Alduin, I returned to Whiterun to do my final prep work. Enchant the blade's armor, make more bullets to get me through the rest of the run, and all that fun stuff. After that, return to High Hrothgar and listen to a stream with the audio set to maximum, learn how to yell at clouds, then climb to the throat of the world. This time, I walk there instead of horsing around. The buff to damage is really starting to show how good it is. With my enchantments plus perks and archery, I am blasting away ice wraiths in almost one shot. Like one more archery level would be a one shot with the weapon's current output, plus the steam enchantment with it too. At the summit, I indulged in some party snacks, read the scroll to go to the bathroom, and then when I returned was the fight with Alduin. The first fight with Alduin is pretty easy today, all things considered. Well, for one, Creation Club items are almost always broken in power, and for two, Alduin really want to have some party snacks today, always trying to get into the bowl rather than blast at me. Well, I played it smart like a shooter and used the cover. Well, if I was smart, I would be using advantage of the right hand in nature, but oh well. After all that goes down, Alduin goes down in about a minute on normal, which is pretty good all things considered. A test of how good your build is, and at this point, the game is done. Well, even though I did start the Civil War questline, I can't skip the Peace Council because I'm not marching on Windhelm today. But with my bullet situation, I would like to limit my optional encounters since I want to be done with this run. Well, I say that, but this is the last 30 minutes of the run, and 10 of those minutes is the glorified cutscene. Well, I sleep through the negotiations and get yelled at by Tullius for getting 2 holds for the price of 1, and if I wanted to finish the Civil War questline, this was one less quest to do. I will remember this, Tullius, for all the bull crap you guys gave me this run. Well, back in Whiterun, I call forth my Dragon Uber and begin Skuldolphin. Sure, I had 150 bullets left, and in theory I should play it smart to conserve ammo. Counterpoint, rip and tear. I made sure that every last undead felt the blast of my gun. Dragon, Draugr, all just experience in my eyes. As for the insides of the dungeon, sure they brought out the whites, but I honestly couldn't care. I just blasted my way through, making sure to use cover to my advantage, and honestly at this point this just felt like a shooter. Just with a long reload. Oh yeah, the Overlord at the end of the inside was a joke. As for the outside, more whites, but honestly their title didn't mean much. Well, since I'm a power trip, I decided to have fun with Nokreen today. And honestly, I couldn't discern Nokreen for any other enemy. 3 shots was seriously all it took. Well, inside Sovngarde I booked it right to soon. It seemed like I had a case of NA aim today because for the life of me I couldn't hit him. It wasn't until he got up close and personal when I lobbed a cannonball right in his chest. I know he was basically a demigod, but that must have broken at least half his ribs. After talking to the Master Carries, it is time for the final fight, and given how fights were up to this point, Alduin was not much of a threat. Really, he would just focus on the ghosts, and the only thing I had to worry about were the fireballs. Really, with every run, if he can make it back soon, the run is done. Well, after several shots into the head, I can claim victory and prove yes, you can beat Skyrim with a gun. Arquebus. Overall, a pretty fun run. Really, the hardest part of the run was just getting the bullets secured, and once that was all done, it wasn't pretty hard. As you can tell, I blitzed through the main story since only the Dwarven dungeon was of any difficulty, and now it's just more of the Arquebusiers. I'm grateful for the ability for the arrow glitch so I could actually do the dungeon plus the ammunition cancel to get around the low reload speed. Though I am bummed about not being able to share my secrets with Hero Pawn Ricky, but oh well. I might take a break from runs for a little bit, but don't worry, the next challenge run I have in mind will definitely be on the harder side of things. Well, if you like this run, feel free to drop a like and also subscribe if you haven't. We're on the road to 1,000 sub milestone, so any support helps. And if you have any ideas for me to suffer through, feel free to leave them down in the comments. This has been Orpheolus, and I'll see you all for the next one.